You won't get far on hot air and fantasy.
This is a film for overreachers, really. I mean, we've all gone far beyond what we should have tried to make this film. I mean, the film is like the stories. They're impossible. You can't do it. You can't make this film. This film is impossible.
On a beach in Spain, Terry Gilliam is demanding the impossible for his new film, The Adventures of Baron Muchausen. Suffering for their art are John Neville as the Baron, fellow Canadian Sarah Polly as his young sidekick Sally Salt, and as his four servants, Winston Dennis, Jack Purvis, Charles McEwan and Eric Idle.
Well, I've never worked for him before and I won't be back.
He's hilarious. He's crazy. He's just crazy.
Total madman, really. And I guess only he could take on this movie or invent it or do it and get it done. He is totally crazy.
The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. What is it about? It's about lies. It's about the greatest liar the world has ever known. It's about flying to the moon, meeting 60-foot-high people with detachable heads. It's floating through the center of the Earth, meeting Vulcan and Venus. It's being swallowed by whales. It's flying on cannonballs. It's dancing in the sky. It's normal, everyday sort of film.
Can I help you, tiny mortals?
I sincerely hope so. I'm Baron Munchausen. You may have heard of me.
The film opens with a stage performance in the ruined theatre of a besieged town. Bill Patterson plays the stage Munchausen, but the performance is interrupted by the real Baron, and the film subsequently follows him on his quest to liberate the town with the help of his four fabulous servants. Their leader is played by Terry's old friend of Monty Python days, Eric Idle.
About a year ago, when I used to be a human being and lived in England and had hair, Terry Gilliam brought this screenplay to me and he was very depressed about it. And I read it, and it's a wonderful screenplay. It really is. And like a fool, I said, it's a wonderful screenplay. You must make it. It'll make a great film. Now, had I stopped there and said, and go away and leave me alone, all would have been well. But no. I had to open my mouth and say, and I wouldn't mind playing Desmond. It seems a nice part. We'd have a lot of fun. So I'm paying for it now.
You swine! You toddled off with that old Queen of Tarts and left me to rot in that parrot cage, didn't you? And now you come back here just because it suits you after wasting half my life and expect me to follow you to the ends of the earth. Yes. Oh, all right.
The American-born Gilliam came to filmmaking after his term as animator with the Monty Python team. Since then, he's directed a series of pictures, including Time Bandits and Brazil. These were all made in England, his adopted home. But for Baron Munchausen, he went to the Italian Cinecittà studios, just outside of Rome.
Over the years, I've just worked with a smaller and smaller group of people who get on very well, and we've worked out a lot of shorthand. We've worked out a way of working together, and in a way I've set all that behind, come to this new place. And I don't know why I did it. I mean, partly just possibly I was getting too smug in England. Life was getting too easy, so I decided to sort of chop off one foot, tie an arm behind my back, stick a bandage over my head, and come out here and see if we could make a film.
One, take one, NBC camera. And so, I bid farewell to my horn-headed, three-legged friends, and prepared to return across the sea of wine to my native land.
Thank you.
Cut off!
Okay, that was terrible. All right, now the sun is to constantly keep moving. The sun went too high. The horn-headed friend came in too late. The rope was early. But other than that, Bill was great.
Gilliam wrote the script in collaboration with the actor Charles McEwan. They've worked together before on the script for Brazil. This time they were inspired by the Muchausen tales, which date back to the 18th century.
They're sort of parodies of travellers' tales of the period. I can imagine people coming back from all over the planet saying they'd seen extraordinary stories, lies about having seen creatures with 3 heads and so on. And it's a sort of parody of that in a sense.
I was very impressed from the screenplay, the way they'd managed to collide them into one story. I thought that's always the danger of doing tales. That, oh, here we go into this tale and that tale, and that's one of the clever things, is how they interweave the fantasy and the reality.
What happened in the story?
What?
In the Sultan's palace. Did you escape? Were you killed?
I don't know. It was all a long time ago. Who cares?
I do.
I'm very tired. Goodbye.
Please tell me.
Nope.
Go on.
Buzz off.
Tell me! Please.
We've got a script. I've got very clear ideas in my head. I storyboard things. It takes a long time working with everybody. With, say, Dante Ferretti, who's the designer on it and is absolutely brilliant. But it's trying to get him into my brain is the thing. It helps a lot that I can draw, because I can say that, and red, I can say, no, that's not like that. Let's do that. And that cuts through a lot of our problems, but it seems to be difficult. It always is frustrating for me, because to me it seems so obvious what I'm trying to do, and yet even in England, with people I'd worked with a lot, they still had problems trying to understand exactly what I was after. I need a bit of space to work in, and what's happening in Italy so far is that I really like having everybody very organized around me, very organized people, and that leaves me room to be chaotic in. The Italian system is chaos from the word go, and so there's very little room for me at the moment. I didn't really set out to do Muchausen. It sort of happened. I always get this feeling about the films. They make themselves, and I become, I'm merely the hand that does the writing. But the films just start happening. They take you over, and you become their hapless victim. You drag as many of your friends in, and somehow the film makes itself.
It's an invigorating process, and the experience that I've had working with him is on projects which have a kind of yeast-like quality, which they continue to. You don't just write the script and it's all dead from there on in. It's constantly changing, so it's quite interesting.
It'll get worse as it goes on, because you develop strange identifications with the characters. In Brazil, I was Sam, and the making of the film was very much like the film, and in this one is going to be the same problem, I think. Only this one has a happy ending. That's the only advantage to it.
And you are?
I think I'm him. No, I've got to be the Baron, I think, because it's very much like that, going off doing impossible adventures, gathering together a lot of reluctant people who claim they can't do it because the circumstances are too overwhelming, and trying to somehow force them to do the impossible.
Where are you going?
Give myself up.
What?
I gave my word that I would raise the siege and save the town. And I gathered you all here for that purpose. If you want to see Baron Munchausen again, you'd better do something about it.
I think a lot of Terry's films do tend to follow the pattern that is set by the sort of major theme of it. I mean, Brazil was this basic struggle against authoritarianism, which is sort of what happened to it in its history with Universal. And this seems to be, you know, the motto of the Baron is Mendace Veritas, which I take to mean out of lying to the truth, or from lies to truth. And that sort of, this bluff and reality seems to be how the film is actually progressing.
There's a theme that Michael Kamen wrote, which appears first in the theatrical sequence, where two mermaids come out as the Baron's been swallowed by this big cutout whale, and they sing, "What will become of the Baron? Surely this time he cannot escape." And that's become a little theme song in my head now. Each time we hit another problem, sure, oh, how does it go? What will become of the Baron? Surely this time he'll not escape. What will become of the Baron? Surely this time he will not escape. Boom. It's like, it feels like that. So this film is going to be a series of impossible escapes from disaster, hopefully. At least that's the script we wrote.
Where the hell's Berthold?
Dunno. What is with you?
Well, if he's not here in 3.5 minutes, the Sultan is going to cut off my head. And?
Was that all? Well, I'm sorry, I don't find that funny. You find that funny?
This isn't a joke. It's a wager.
A wager?
All four of the Baron's servants possess extraordinary powers. Idle is the world's fastest runner, Charles McEwan has phenomenal eyesight, Jack Purvis can blow hurricanes, and Winston Dennis has the strength of a giant. In common with John Neville's Baron, they all have to play a variety of ages, something on which Gilliam held firm views.
Once we got them to Rome on the one-way ticket system that we provide on this film, we then insisted they all shave their heads.
The actual shock of it, having your hair shaved, was, you know, it was weird because he never actually told us he was going to do it. He says, you know, you got to have, the way Terry talks is, yeah, you've got to have this, that and the other, and it didn't really took him serious at the time.
We had a great hair shearing ceremony, which unfortunately you probably don't have on film, but because you weren't there at the day. You do? Oh, great. Well, why not look at it right now? I actually wonder if you ought to have eyebrows.
He has got them.
Oh, why do I ask these questions?
Sorry, Amy. He's just got to feel you can't slide wigs about on it anymore.
The problem is they have to go from being young, beautiful creatures to old, decrepit creatures. And to be old, they needed to be bald and have thinning hair, rather than wearing bald caps, which are cumbersome and they always look terrible. We thought it was better that everybody shaved their heads and we could put anything we wanted to on their heads, which they did. And there was a strange group of people wandering around Rome. You could tell who was in the film and who wasn't.
It's pure sexual jealousy is the reason. He doesn't want anybody more handsome or virile appearing on the set than him. And if he can possibly stick warts all over your face and shave your hair off and make you very uncomfortable, he will.
Oh, yeah. The Baron.
Hey?
Do I hear the Baron?
No, doctors. Do I hear the Baron?
I just said that. Use a trumpet.
Adolphus.
My whole face and neck is covered in latex or plastic, to make it simpler, to make the wrinkles. But I also, this is not my real nose. I do have quite a large, prominent nose in life, but this is much larger. And this is what you see now is very, very like the Doré illustrations. I mean, they have been very careful to do that. The jutting beard and the nose with the hook in it and the wig and this saucy tail to the wig.
Working at Cinecittà proved to be a two-edged sword. The design expertise had to be balanced against the Italian studio system.
By things being begun in a rush, working in a studio that is a very strange bureaucratic system, Cinecittà, where sets are promised and sets don't quite arrive on time. Dante was only allowed a couple days to actually dress the set. We went into this thing, a very complicated theater set with no idea of what worked, what didn't work, and we discovered the hard way.
It's really quite extraordinary, and you wouldn't have got the same sort of feeling of texture and 18th centuryness that you do actually get in these 17th century studios. So, I mean, I think in the long run it will pay off, and in the short run it still is quite pleasant, you know, to be in Rome at night time, and when the rest of your life you finally tear off all these rags and can go to dinner.
A week ago, we were getting ready, I think a week from production, from shooting, and on the Monday we were told that Spain wasn't going to allow us to bring in 4 horses that we had trained several months for because there had been an outbreak of African horse fever. So these horses that are trained, the Baron's horses, are trained to do incredible things that we've been spending ages on making them do it, now can't go to Spain to do these tricks. 2 days later, we were told that the dogs we've been training for months came down with a liver complaint. A day after that, David Putnam resigned. So I'm not sure which was the most important disaster that week. We'll find out in some time. This is the end of day 2 in Spain. Yesterday I was actually finished. I actually thought it was all over. Then Eric Idle and several glasses of sherry and wine and Charles McHugh and Jonathan Pryce, we all decided I had to go on, if only for John Neville's career. I've dragged him all the way here. First to Italy, then to Spain. He's hardly had a chance to act. And we've got to make him the most famous man in the world. This is so for that we carry on, only for that.
John Neville is one of our, you know, one of the English great actors. He used this a generation of Burton, and he spent his time wisely avoiding being in bad films. And it's rather lovely that he should be, you know, come into this film and be this character, the Baron.
When we began, I was actually looking for a great actor that had been forgotten by the world and history, and there weren't many of them around. Everybody seemed to be known. And we went through a list of a lot of very famous people, and the one name that kept popping up was John Neville.
It's odd, really, because it's such a huge movie, and brave of Mr. Gilliam, perhaps, even to think of me, although I know I'm a good actor. I'm not actually a movie name who's going to pull a lot of people in.
I mean, I sit around and look at this thing, this camp and all the things here. And yesterday, I was seriously thinking of I really was, that was it was all over. I'll tell you the turning point. I was looking around at this stuff and saying, there's no way I can let anybody else finish this film, no matter what happens. And then I looked out to sea, and there were the 3 elephants. And they were out bathing in that water out there, and the sea was pounding, and the elephants were rolling about. And I just threw off my hat, my shoes, and everything, ran out to the elephants. And the man who had the elephants sort of threw me up on top of one, and suddenly there I was heading out to sea on an elephant. In about a week and a half from now, we'll be going to, leaving Almeria and going to Belchite, which is near Zaragoza in northern Spain. I don't know, I think I'm looking forward to that.
It was in Belchite that they shot the dramatic exterior scenes of a town in the last stages of siege. But Gilliam himself was under siege from a finance company increasingly concerned about mounting costs. On their return from Spain, the money men acted. Production ceased while Gilliam struggled with the necessity of making cuts to his script.
What will become of the Baron? Surely this time there is no escape. What will become of the Baron? Surely this time there is no escape.
Charles just kept, I've never seen him so sort of determined to you know, force me into something. And he just kept pushing, and we went back and we just started coming up with some very silly ideas. You know, and we just started trying, and suddenly it all started making sense. And in about an hour, we pulled the whole thing back together again, called David Tom and said, "Call it, we've got it, we've done it." And we rushed in, and it's the whole film. I mean, that's what the shape of the film is like. These sort of knife edge brinkmanship way of living.
It's a huge movie. It's the biggest movie that's been shot in Europe since Cleopatra, and that's now become a cliche, I think. But it is, you know, huge armies involved, and as I said before, special effects of a very special nature, explosions, and blue screen is involved, and it's a very, very complicated movie with a complicated schedule, and that's really the nature of it. The difficulties are inherent in the size of the movie and the size of the budget.
Two of the largest sets were built for scenes that take place under the volcano Mount Etna. They were a munitions factory run by the god Vulcan and the extravagant ballroom that he's built for his wife, Venus.
Oh, my life, the alpha, the omega of my existence. I've got something here for you. The diamond. For you, my precious.
So sweet. Another diamond.
I play the god of this volcano, and he's danced up to the ceiling of my new ballroom, which I just had painted with my wife, Venus. And I get a little bit cheesed off with that, so I pick him up bodily, and I throw him into this whirlpool, and he's sucked through the middle of the world, and he comes out the other side and fights the Turks. Does that make sense? Does to me.
Yeah.
He jumped onto a cannonball. He really did. And he flew miles up into the sky, above the elephants and soldiers.
God, stop lying!
I'm not lying! Am I?
3, 2, 1, fire!
This time go up and let go with one arm.
The problem is that there's so much in the way of special effects, and they're not special effects in the sense of Star Wars special effects with spaceships flying around. They're more down-to-earth things. And to try to do a lot of those things, because people know what ships look like, they know what oceans look like, they know what fish look like, it's a bit harder. It isn't doing a lot of mechanical things out in a solar system beyond anything we've seen.
They've made all these models where the legs move twice as fast as the body and comes zooming in and plows up the earth as he stops. I mean, it's really very fast running.
Not late, am I?
There were more difficulties with the King of the Moon, played by a surprise guest star.
He arrived on the Saturday, we were shooting him on Monday. We had 5 days to do this in, and he had very, very complicated makeup to be done. We had to have special blue screen rigs and flying rigs so his head could detach from his body. And there was no time to test any of this stuff. And that's the sort of pressure that's really terrifying. We've got that much time with him, and we've got to get done with it. He also had to ride on the three-headed griffin, then, which wasn't ready. He was supposed to be ready on the Monday. We got it on the last day. What happens, he comes to a point in the film and introduces a whole new kind of energy. He's playing a 60-foot-high King of the Moon with a detachable head. And the film's been floating happily along in the 18th century, and suddenly, boom, he bursts onto screen.
Let me explain it to you. Since you were last here, I, that is my head, that which is left of me, where the brilliant and important parts are located, is now ruling and governing the known universe. And that which I don't know, I create. I just created spring.
Your old friend's a lunatic.
So it would seem.
To get to the moon, the Baron makes a massive balloon from silk underwear borrowed from the women of the besieged town.
I got fairly superstitious around that point because we had, on the next to the last day in Spain, we had the balloon to fly, this gigantic balloon of women's underwear to fly over the battlements. And I woke up that morning, I just knew it was going to be a disaster. I just said, if the balloon flies, the film will finish it. If it doesn't, it won't. And we got out there, and it was a terrible day. It was gray, the wind was howling. The balloon couldn't go up in anything other than the most placid, climactic conditions. And the wind was going, we couldn't get the balloon up, and the day was going on and on and on. And the problem was, it spun on this huge crane. We had like a 300-foot crane that was hanging this thing. And there was only one wire, so there was no way of keeping it the right way around. And we had to then make a decision which way to turn it. So we shifted all the wires around, put up again, and it went sideways. It didn't go the right way. And it was now 5 o'clock, and the sun set at 5:30, and it was about 5:05, and it still wasn't going. And I had to make a decision and said, which way to do it, which way? And I said, it's got to be that way. And it took about 10 minutes to get the wires done. Came up, and it was now about 5:15. The thing went up, and the clouds which had come in suddenly opened up. The balloon went. The sun was glorious. The balloon went the right direction. Everything worked perfect. That was it. The film got finished.
What will become of the Baron? Surely this time he'll not escape. What will become of the Baron? Surely this time he will not escape.